I cannot imagine a worse way to legislate. If anyone else in any other job had this level of performance, this much of a glaringly obvious up, they would be fired. They should be fired. In terms of personal news, ended the broadcast last night and something devastating happened. TikTok was banned. I was devastated because normally I will put something on the telly, you know, Zom 100, which I already caught up with. And then after that, I just like turn on TikTok and I just watch TikTok, right? I watch tic-tac-toe, you know, and they banned it. They banned it. They took it away from us for 12 hours. It was terrible. Okay. Where am I going to get my immortal science of Marxist Leninist Xi Jinping thought, socialism with Chinese characteristics? Where am I going to get that steady dose of propaganda? Where am I going to learn? When am I going to get influenced into learning Mandarin? Okay. It's my treat. I need it. Marvel Snap was taken out. All this stuff. It's devastating, right? Why did the message on TikTok mention Trump? I don't know. Maybe because he's saying he wants to save it and TikTok is glazing him so that, you know, they don't get banned. Why are people so, the thing I don't understand is like, why are people so weird about like giving Trump credit, even if you're being apprehensive with the credit that you're giving? Like, even if you understand that things may fall apart down the line, people get very weird about that. Like, you don't have to deny reality. You know what I mean? It's not a partisan situation at all sometimes. Because he banned it? No, he didn't. He wanted to ban it, okay, by executive order initially. And you know who actually did ban it? The Democrats did. Under Democratic leadership, under a Democratic president, the Democratic president signed it into law. They found the bipartisan support to actually get it banned. A major thing that actually pushed it over the finish line, helped the TikTok ban cross over the finish line, and the legislative side of things was specifically the influence of the pro-Israeli lobby and their efforts, because they hated that there was too many people talking about Palestine on there, okay, ironically enough. And the Democratic Party was like, no, we have arrested 3,500 students so far, and we also will take away your treats in this really silly way. Even though, lo and behold, as I correctly and consistently have said, Americans have nothing. The only thing they have is treats. If you take their treats away, they will lose their minds. Okay? So guess what? You know who took it back? You know who was at least giving it a stay on the execution? Donald Trump. That's it. That's just the reality. It's so strange that people just like are refusing refusing to recognize the honest reality here. It's not a team sport at all to me. Okay, I'm calling balls and I'm calling strikes. Trump is great at creating a mess and getting credit for cleaning it up, but yeah, this was an easy layup from Dems, just like Gaza and immigration. No, I think that in terms of who is most responsible for TikTok getting banned, it's not Trump. It's not. Trump was nowhere near power when TikTok got banned through Congress. Like, what are we talking about? Yeah, he initially wanted to ban it via executive order many years ago when he was president. He couldn't do it, okay? And guess what? The Democrats were like, no, it's fine, we'll do it. He started the conversation. That's cope. You guys are coping. Trump started a million different conversations when he was in office. What are we talking about? Trump's SCOTUS upheld the ban? Double cope, triple cope. It was a 9-0 unanimous decision. It was a Democratic Party legislative agenda item. It was deeply unpopular, and for some weird reason, I could see how unpopular it was when it was happening, and yet they couldn't until the very last second when people went, oh, no, I didn't realize this was going to be bad. Oh, my God. So it was bipartisan. This is idiotic. You are playing an idiotic game. You are playing an idiotic game here. It is, of course, it is bipartisan. Republicans are always going to push for office regardless. It is up to the Democrats, who are in charge at that point, to not push this silly, stupid legislative item. You are being ridiculous. What is this? What is this weird attitude that people have? What is this weird attitude that people have where they just like constantly are just like, well, the Democrats are powerless. They're babies. They're stupid. They don't know what's happening. It's like, no, they made an incredibly stupid, incredibly unpopular decision. This does not mean that the Republicans are good. The Republicans are evil as hell, but the Democrats are also evil. The Democrats are also incompetent. They're stupid. It's a manipulative tactic. Trump initially brought the ban to the table. I'm not denying the fact that Dems fail, but Trump only likes it now because he's seen how it can benefit him. Guys, good luck. Good luck trying to actively deny the reality that like every average dumb person, 170 million of them, can see in broad daylight. I'm sorry. Is the reason you have more smoke against Dems than Republicans because they're the opposition party? The reason why I have more smoke for the Democrats against the Republicans is because, first of all, that's not true. I have more smoke for Republicans than Democrats always. But the reason why I'm yelling at my chat right now is because they refuse to recognize reality. And there is nothing that is more annoying to me than a group of people who routinely undermine the reality that is in front of everyone's eyes, where they just like look for an alternative way to message around it, where they're like, no, you don't understand. It was actually Trump that wanted to do it. Okay, so we should just kept the ban in place. Why didn't he keep the ban in place? Why is he saying he wants to give it a stay of execution? Why did he successfully give it a stay of execution as the incoming president? Please stop. Please. You cannot. This is not a politically sound way to operate, but more importantly than that, more importantly than politics, this is also, you're basically training yourself to deny reality at the behest of a party that has abandoned you, instead of trying to get your party, if you are a Democrat, wake up. Okay? Truly ridiculous. So what is your point though? People are trying to rationalize all this. What do you recommend us to do? I recommend you to all open your eyes and don't lean into false narratives because you feel as though it is more beneficial for the Democratic Party in an effort to defend the Democratic Party and their incompetence. It's so silly. It's so stupid. It is proof that TikTok broke brains. Even if you're on TikTok's side, you have to understand the way people are acting about this is childish and low-key insane. No, it's not. I think you're being childish and insane if you don't recognize that an application that 170 million people were using to communicate with one another, more importantly than that, 7 million small businesses had started on, 7 million people were relying on TikTok for, you know, income. And it's not just like dance people, okay? It's not just like people doing dances and making money off of doing advertising. Even then, that's just like one of the only viable economies remaining in this country. So what are you supposed to do? But outside of that, there's people that are making, you know, belt buckles. There's people that are making bags. There are people that are making things and selling it on the TikTok shop. And you're just gonna rip that away for what reason? For no reason whatsoever? Ridiculous. It's completely out of control. The people that think like, no, it's actually totally understandable. We should entertain stuff like this. We should entertain ridiculous things that the Democratic Party does like this. Why? Because I don't like it personally. Come on now. Giving Trump praise is exactly what he wants, saying Trump saved TikTok when he still agrees with the bill passed. No, he doesn't. Because if he agreed with the bill that passed, he wouldn't have passed the bill. I mean, he wouldn't have stopped the stay of execution. It's so stupid. They don't sell them or CEO friends 50%, then TikTok will be banned once again. Don't fall for this propaganda. Like, guys, hello? What are you saying? If he agreed with it, if he agreed with the ban, he would have banned it. If he agreed with the ban, he would have banned it. What propaganda are we talking about? He would have just let it happen. Like, there's nothing in this for him to defend TikTok's honor or whatever. I don't think you guys understand how comprehensive of a bill this was. Like, I don't think you understand. The way that the Democrats wrote this bill was so that it was a definite ban, where they were like, you either divest from this company that is very profitable, or you're done. And not only, like, they wouldn't even punish TikTok directly. They would punish every other American corporation for having its hands on TikTok. Servers that run TikTok servers would get punished. Okay? Apple would get punished for having it on the App Store. Google would get punished for having it on the Android Store. This is a very comprehensive piece of legislation that extends beyond the next 4 years. It was a 5-year piece of legislation as well. ISPs would get punished. $5,000 per person that is actively using TikTok. With 170 million people, that is like $800 billion in damages. And it's not like, this is an incredibly dangerous precedent. I talked about this quite a bit. Yesterday, for the past week, for the past couple of months, as a matter of fact. This is not just about like, oh, I like TikTok, I enjoy using it, and you're taking away my treat. This is not that at all. This is a far greater issue than simply the government taking away your treat. The fact that treats are the only thing that motivate the broader American public. And treats are the only thing that hold this entire social fabric together, because without treats, you have literally nothing. Then you recognize that you don't have healthcare, the roads are and you'll never be able to retire, and life is utterly dog, right? And your rent is too much and you can't afford nice things. All of a sudden, when you take that last treat away, people are going to go, what the hell is this about then? And that's precisely what happened during COVID as well. And there was a good reason to deny some treats during COVID. There's no good reason to deny this treat. Okay. It's so shocking to me personally that liberals have this tendency to look at something when any politician actually responds to public pressure in a positive way. Okay. They go, that's bad. That's automatically bad. I'm going to yell about that. I'm going to be against it. Inherently, I'm anti that because a bad guy did it. Trump is still a very bad guy. He is not a good guy at all. Okay. He's a horrible guy. Starting Tuesday, ICE raids are going to start in Chicago. You'll see how bad of a guy he is then. Trust me. Okay. But there is no reason to look at the situation and deny reality. It doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense whatsoever to look at the situation and not recognize who the real perpetrators are and how they, in the most incompetent ways possible, gave Donald Trump a massive opportunity to present himself as this savior of this incredibly popular app against the incredibly unpopular thing that Congress had done in a bipartisan manner that was still, at the end of the day, signed into law by the Democratic administration. This is in the hands of the Democratic Party. So looking at a person, looking at any politician that responds to public pressure in a positive way and immediately going, no, I'm against it because the other team did this, is stupid. Okay? It's incredibly stupid. It's incredibly dumb. And I need you to understand that. And I need you to never do this. Please don't do this. Being a partisan in this regard is so silly because you're denying abject reality that is in front of you. It's the same as like thinking, no, Trump's influence played no role in pressuring Israel. Trump's influence played no role in pressuring Israel whatsoever to actually come to terms with the ceasefire agreement. Like, it's ridiculous. So what happened for the past 15 months? Biden couldn't exert his influence, but then all of a sudden at the last second he was able to? No, of course not. That's precisely the reason why everyone is saying, no, this was Trump. Trump played a big role in this. Having said that, of course, the grift to the right begins. Yes, dude, I'm grifting to the right. Yeah, I'm grifting to the right. You will never find me grifting to the right. The people that grift to the right are the Democratic Party all the time, okay? I'm grifting to reality. You see Hutch trying to talk again? Yeah. No. Let's try to defend the scraps of the Democratic Party. The bill was introduced by Republicans and it passed on a bipartisan basis with a veto-proof majority. Obviously, that won't stop the relentless Dems back chorus from the left flank. We're going to see again and again in the second Trump era, every time he pulls a stunt like this. Wow, the bill was introduced by Republicans and it passed on a bipartisan basis with a veto-proof majority. Wait, how did it get a veto-proof majority then? How did it get a veto? Wait, I didn't realize that. Oh my God. I had no idea that the Republicans actually had a veto-proof majority in Congress and were able to get this legislative item passed on their own. Never mind. It's because I'm not an absolute moron who's wrong all the time about politics that I recognize that this is still in the hands of the Democrats under a Democratic leadership with Democrats that actually signed on for it. That's what a bipartisan bill is, okay? It just doesn't make sense. Ratio his ass like you did with Tommy. I wasn't even trying to ratio Tommy Vitor, by the way. That wasn't my intention at all when I responded to him. He said Chinese Communist Party running ads for Trump on TikTok. It's true. TikTok is running not just an ad, not just any ad, the largest, most consequential ad of all time. Okay? They're doing that. And the way that they are able to do this and the reasons for why they're doing that is because Trump said, we're not banning TikTok, at least for now. Okay, one must look at who's responsible for giving this massive W to Donald Trump. The Democrats handed him the easiest W of all time if he's smart enough to seize it, is what I said. I didn't intend to actually dunk on Tommy Vitor or anything like that. This wasn't intentional at all. Yeah, no other will ever care that Trump got paid to flip-flop on it because Congress didn't really explain why it felt necessary to do so. I didn't even see his response, but I don't, this response I don't agree with entirely either. But because like I think Trump is not doing this because he got paid for it or whatever. Trump is doing this because he understands that TikTok is popular. That's it. And it's an easy W for him. He personally thinks TikTok played a role in him winning this election, in him basically getting 34% of the youth vote, as opposed to like in prior elections, never reaching that percentage at all. Okay. He thinks TikTok played a big role in him getting that. And I think the TikTok CEO, and TikTok did a pretty smart move where they literally were like, oh no, we love the Republican Party. Look at Charlie Kirk. He's so popping on TikTok. They literally juiced up one guy from the Trump orbit, and immediately they were like, actually, TikTok is great for us in order to have a stay of execution. Now, do you think that it would get to that point? Do you think that this would have had to have happened if the Democrats were like, of course we're not banning TikTok? What are we, stupid? If they had said, no, we're not doing that, and instead we're actually smart, just like Trump is in this regard, and said, no, we're not banning that. Republicans want to do censorship. Republicans want to take away your First Amendment rights. Republicans want to take away your treats. Republicans want to ban a platform that has 7 million small businesses who love small businesses. If they had done a massive propaganda campaign like that, I'm certain that one, this ban wouldn't have even been a conversation. It wouldn't even been a point of contention. And if it was ever a point of contention, it would be one that would benefit the Democrats, because they could actively bully the Republicans for being annoying losers who are censorious. But they didn't do that. They didn't do that because they were scared. They were scared because the ADL looked at TikTok and said, everyone is doing Hamas propaganda on there. Get to work right now. Okay? They tagged it along with I believe it was a spending bill. It was a must-pass bill that they added this over to. It passed with bipartisan support. Democrats signed off on it. Some Democrats didn't, right? But enough of them signed off for it for a veto-proof majority. Joe Biden voted for it as well and pushed for it. He signed it into law. And here we are. And because it became increasingly the reality that it was going to get banned, and people were like, what are you doing? This is our livelihoods. All of a sudden, in the last second, they were like, just kidding. We actually don't want it banned. Can you imagine a world where you push for something, okay? You push for a piece of legislation. That legislation passes. Your president votes on that legislation. Then it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. You don't have a Supreme Court in that situation, right? The Supreme Court is not even on your side. And yet that conservative Supreme Court unanimously votes to enact the legislation that you pushed. And literally a day after that, right as you are on the way out of your administration, on the last day of your administration, you go, we were just kidding. We were just kidding. We were kidding 36 hours. Let's just leave this to Trump. He can deal with it. I cannot imagine a worse way to legislate. I can't imagine a stupider thing that a party could do. And this isn't like, Hasan, you're a dreamer. You're just dreaming big. You want pie in the sky ideals. Like, you are just ideologically minded on this issue. Like, no, it's just bad politics, man. I'm looking at exactly what the Democrats are doing and telling you that they're doing bad politics. They are playing like they want to lose. It's terrible. It's terrible politics. If anyone else in any other job had this level of performance, this much of a glaringly obvious, they would be fired. They should be fired. It is crazy. And when the Democrats up, we suffer. Okay? Because when they mess up, when they suck, when they're bad at their jobs, then Republicans win. Okay? They might not care about that because they're politicians. And as long as they can keep getting their donations, as long as they can keep farming donos off of all of the awful cruelty that the Republican agenda represents, they're fine. As long as they can keep sending their children to the best schools and make them work at these same mega corporations that they end up getting money from to deregulate those specific sectors, they're fine. You are not fine. When Republicans control the government and do awful shit, you're not fine. You suffer. It's ridiculous. It is completely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, dude. It's mind-boggling. Okay? And I don't understand how people can't see the glaringly obvious reality here. I don't get it. Yeah. Just 33% of all Americans express their favorable view of the Democratic Party, an all-time low in CNN's polling dating back to 1992. 4 years ago, in the immediate aftermath of January 6th, attack on the Capitol, the Democrats' rating stood at 49% and the Republicans at 32%. The party is so bad. They're such an overt failure. Anyone that defends this kind of ineptitude is ridiculous. You're just defending losers. Like, you're defending losers for losing. You're deluding yourself. It's so bad that it's like understandable if you think that this is a controlled opposition party where they're like deliberately losing. I can't begin to explain this. And it's actually stuff like this. This is no motion, okay? Just so you understand. This is one, a denial of abject reality, a refusal to understand how anything works. But last but not least, this is what you see on MSNBC at a time when they are failing, okay? Why are you doing MSNBC talking points on Twitter, man? Why are you doing that? Do you have no mind of your own? Are you a goddamn robot? Are you getting paid by the DNC at least? Please, Hutch, tell me you're getting paid. Because if you're doing this for free, I don't know what to tell you. Like, if you're doing this for free, you are such a loser. Not only are you wrong, but you're not even professionally wrong. At least Matt Iglesias is professionally wrong, right? He gets paid to be wrong. He gets paid to defend the Democratic Party. He gets paid to push them right. And then he goes, after he gets all of his wishes demonstrated by the Democratic Party, and they lose, understandably, because that's a dark way to run a campaign, he still turns around and says, no, they didn't just go right enough. That's the problem. But like, I don't understand it. I don't understand how you, as an outsider, as a COD guy, could turn around and, you know, do this for free. You're doing propaganda, not even for the Democratic Party at this point. You're doing propaganda for like a select few group of analysts within the Democratic Party that are getting all this money to lose. You're doing this for staffers that are giving all of the wrong notes to their politicians. And it does not make any sense. It especially doesn't make sense when you do it for free. I don't get it. I genuinely don't get it. I think for a lot of people, I'm going to be as charitable as I possibly can be and try to analyze or interpret what's going on in front of me here. Okay? I'm going to assume that because we are so cynical at this stage, after multiple decades of Reaganomics, after the devastation caused by neoliberalism, we at this point, I think, genuinely consider any kind of, like, some people, not we, as in people here, but I think there are some liberals out there who falsely assume that politics is about being paternalistic and also doing things that the population doesn't want. And the more unpopular this is, the more bitter this pill is to swallow, the more real politics is happening in that situation. And I think a lot of these guys play catch up, where they basically look to the Democratic Party and don't actually interpret why this bill is passing or what the reasons are from the Democratic Party. They just simply play catch up and defense after the fact, no matter how bad it is. And the only way that they can do that is by simply stating, you know, you just don't understand. The average person doesn't understand. Populism is inherently bad. Doing things that the majority want is inherently bad. Are there instances where doing things that the majority wants is inherently bad? Sure, there are. Sometimes good governance dictates you do things, especially if you have a grand design, if you have a big plan, right? Infrastructure, let's say. You're going to build a massive web of bullet trains. That's going to be an expansive project. That's going to be an expensive project. You're going to have to do eminent domain throughout that process. Some people are not going to like that. Sometimes a good government is supposed to do those things, okay, at the behest of a larger agenda that is overtly good, okay, that is beneficial for commerce, that is beneficial for improving people's material conditions. This is not one of those instances. Banning TikTok is not one of those instances. Not only unpopular, but it's also stupid. It's a bad piece of legislation. It's bad politics and it's bad policy. And Democrats love doing bad politics and pairing it up with bad policy. It does not make any sense. So it doesn't make any sense to defend this sort of thing. I don't understand it. I really, really, really don't understand it, especially because like that kind of commentary that Hutch is engaging in here, playing catch up and like defending Democrats' incompetence once again, and claiming that this is me actually like giving credit to the Republicans and not just like addressing reality, okay? Doing political analysis and addressing the reality that everyone can see too, by the way, okay? But infinitely better writers who have spent multiple decades in these institutions write much craftier pieces, think pieces on the New York Times anyway. So you're not filling a void either. Not only are you wrong, but you're not even good at being wrong, and you're not getting paid to be wrong. So I don't understand. Just give it up. Wake up. Exercise a little bit of critical thinking and stop just defending the Democratic Party like a bot, dude. How is this helpful for anything? Just want to know what your goal is. It only pushes people farther and farther away from listening to us. What? Dude, it drives me crazy. You're so reactive. Can you actually make a plan for us to build a productive coalition with a clear and concise message that actually attracts people to our side, not just attacking everyone all the time? Do you not understand what's going on in the thing that I pulled? I made a correct assessment that the overwhelming majority of people are also aware of. And then a person that is supposed to be on our side, okay, it chose to interpret that in the worst way possible and actually claim a reality that doesn't exist. What do you want me to do? I understand your points. I just think it's helpful to focus on. Okay, well, but you don't know anything. So I don't know why it is a much broader point that I'm making. It's not just Hutch. There are a lot of people that do this. Okay. It is the mentality that a lot of people have, which is defend the Democrats unconditionally, even when they're in the wrong. And it's inappropriate. So that conversation that I'm having here is not just about Hutch. Okay. It's about everyone that has that same tendency to immediately rush to defend the Democratic Party, even if they are operating in an incompetent manner. It makes everyone look delusional. Okay? That's it. If you do this out in the wild, people will look at you like you're crazy. Anyway, here, as I said, there was my I told you so video.
Told you. I told you. TikTok has 170 million Americans. It's infinitely more popular than Congress. It's more popular than most things in this country. It's more popular than voting. It would be far too difficult for our incompetent Congress to fully successfully ban this application with 7 million small businesses on it. So here we are, the Democratic Party's incompetence once again in full display, giving Donald Trump, the man who wanted to initially ban TikTok, the full credit on a massive billboard with 170 million people, giving him the credit that he is actually now saving TikTok. Coming right on the heels of a ceasefire in Gaza as well that for 15 months Joe Biden simply could not accomplish. This be a warning though. As America's power diminishes on the global stage, they are going to become more censorious. Free speech never really truly existed. Obviously, look at the Red Scare. Look at what they did to black activists. Look at what they did to, BDS. But now it's going to get worse.
Isn't this stunt super illegal and says the President Trump can do things outside the judicial and legislative branches? What do you mean the stunt is super illegal? What's illegal about it? What is illegal about this quote unquote stunt? What's illegal about it? Is it sneaky thirst talk? Anyway, here, I'm blasting it. Go like it. This just proves our laws don't mean shit. It's who's in power and who's willing to use that power. Americans have acute severe TikTok withdrawal and is showing cold turkey and they're fiending. It's not healthy. China bad. USA, USA, USA. Yeah, I mean, this is a great take as well. Yeah, you Dem loyalists were wrong about the significance of Gaza to Americans, wrong about the political relevance of the TikTok ban, wrong about the validity and intensity of popular hatred of corporations. You don't know anything when it counts. Please exit all civic life forever. It's true. I'm already seeing thank you Trump posts from my apolitical friends. I want to die in a video game. If you're angry at that, understand who's responsible for it. Because who gave Trump this opportunity? Who? Who gave Trump this opportunity? The Democrats did. They did. I want a competent, actually anti-fascist Democratic Party. I want a real counterbalance to growing fascism in this country. The Democrats are refusing to do that. Okay? They're refusing to do that. And I keep screaming, and I keep kicking, and I keep demanding that the Democrats actually do that so that we don't have a ridiculous Republican administration. It's ironic that people will try and claim that I'm an accelerationist, that I want Trump to win or some dumb shit, when it's exactly the opposite. If the Democratic Party listened to any number of different things that I was complaining about, we could have had a much different outcome here in this election cycle. But no, I don't expect them to. I'm just saying that, like, it is completely ridiculous that these guys don't want to learn from their defeats at all. Can you explain the data behind saying that the ban is unpopular? When the ban passed, it has 70% support in polling that was accurate in the election, sadly. Even TikTok users, the ban was 30% yes to the ban. Has there been recent polling trying to counter the people saying it's popular, we should ban it still? Okay, two things that I will tell you on this. One, at no point did it actually reach above 50% approval for banning it, okay? And even then, it doesn't matter because there are 170 million people on the application. How many times do I have to explain to people that in the United States of America, especially, people that claim that they want something, that they think that, like, banning something is going to be good, once facing that reality, will very quickly change their minds. We just went through this with abortion. We just went through this with fucking Roe v. Wade. I don't know how else I can explain it. There were people who were like, I'm voting for the Republican Party, but maybe this abortion ban, not a great idea. They literally went back to their own states and with resounding margins turned around and solidified constitutionally enshrined abortion protections in the same states. Clearly, the people that were like, oh yeah, I'll vote for the abortion ban, I think it's a good idea, once it was a reality, we're like, oh my God, it wasn't a good idea at all. It was a very bad idea. Let's change this immediately. This is the reality in America all the time. People will say, I want something. And when that thing happens, they go, oh my God, I had no idea how devastating this was going to be. This is part of the benefit for reactionary politics, is that Republicans can get away with a lot of awful things, with an agenda that is just inherently bad, okay? An agenda that is harmful to so many Americans because many of them don't realize the damage until it's far too late, once it's implemented. And a pretty sizable chunk of people never even recognize it. So that's number one. Number two, even on that front, it never actually passed 50%. Okay? That's a good angle to come at it, people. The public as a whole is very bad at hypothetical situations. The what if questions, they just generally get wrong. Yes. Look at climate change. People can't comprehend something unless it's like tangible, unless it's like A to B. Okay? Especially as a broader population. That's number one. Number two. Okay. Number two, even then, there wasn't this like mass approval of banning TikTok. Okay. There wasn't like this overwhelming sea of support to ban TikTok. How can you say that when the application is the most popular application? Like, what are we talking about? Like, think, please. I don't care what the Pew Research Center said in terms of like the 50% ban, which got lowered to like 30% by the time it got to an actual implementation. But think about that. Think about that, please. Like, at the end of the day, you can look at the raw number of people that are using the application on a daily basis. Part of the reason why they wanted to ban it was because of its success. Just because people use it doesn't mean they don't want it banned. Dude, that is so dumb. That is so dumb. I use TikTok all the time and I want it banned. The amount of users means nothing. Do you think the overwhelming majority of TikTok daily users in the 170 million actually wanted it banned? So why are people celebrating this then? Why is this a benefit to Donald Trump? If this was truly a popular decision, why is this being treated like an ad for Donald Trump? This should be a major L for Trump. That Trump saved TikTok should actually be a bad thing. But you understand that as a good thing. You understand that as a good thing because you recognize, regardless of what you're saying right now to try to prove a stupid point on your in this moment, you also understand that this was objectively an unpopular decision by the Democratic Party. What you're saying doesn't even make logical sense. If TikTok's ban was a genuinely popular thing, then right now everyone would be dunking on Trump. They'd be like, oh, this idiot. I can't believe he saved TikTok. He should have never done that. We love that TikTok was banned. We want it to be banned. Right? Right? Don't you think? Your argument doesn't make sense. The argument that you're trying to put forth doesn't make sense. I don't get it. Why are the Dems not gloating? Why are they all mad? Why are they all upset that Trump got credit for saving TikTok? If banning TikTok was so popular, you actually don't believe Trump initiated this? What are you talking about? I 100% believe Trump initiated this. What do you mean? Trump, look, here's what I think. Okay, here's what I think. AIPAC gave the final push to get this across the finish line. It was tied to a must-pass bill. It got passed. Joe Biden signed it, celebrated it, thought this was a major W. Then the Supreme Court took it on and gave a unanimous decision to finalize this ban. In that process, there was an election cycle, however. In that election cycle, Donald Trump actually started posting on TikTok. So do the Democrats, as a matter of fact. Weirdly enough, even though it's a major national security problem, it seems like neither party actually had an issue posting on the platform while they were actively trying to ban it, right? The difference is between the two parties, one party was being hypocritical by posting on TikTok, while the other party, on the other hand, was posting on TikTok and getting glazed, okay? Donald Trump, in that process, realized that TikTok might not be so bad. In his mind, he thought, because Charlie Kirk was, seeing a tremendous amount of success on the platform, and Charlie Kirk directly has access to Donald Trump, and many other right-wing content creators were telling him, TikTok is good, TikTok is good. He decided this was actually beneficial for him. Because he reads the room. That's it. It's not a superpower. It's literally not a superpower. But for some reason, if you are in DC for a long enough time, just trying to understand what like the overwhelming majority of people enjoy or like becomes this impossible endeavor. It might as well be a superpower to be able to read the room actively. He recognized that people liked him on there. He thought that it played a role in him winning over the youth vote. Okay? He got great margins in the youth vote in comparison to past performance. He said it openly. He said, TikTok played a big role in me winning. The youth love TikTok. They love Trump. I'm going to save it. I'm going to defend it. And that's all it takes. TikTok glazed the Republicans, reposted Charlie Kirk memes. Show is still, the CEO is still reposting Charlie Kirk at Greenland or whatever. Okay? And they're doing that because they don't want the application to be banned. The difference is Mark Zuckerberg was never threatened. And he still chooses to Trump off. Elon Musk was never threatened. And he chose to defend Donald Trump and chose to actively use his platform in ways that are far more significant than what TikTok did in terms of beefing up Trump's campaign strategies and using Twitter as a platform that was an endless faucet of right-wing misinformation. They did that for personal gain when they didn't even need to. TikTok, on the other hand, obviously looked at the situation and was like, well, this guy's pretty agreeable if you glaze him a little bit. And that's precisely what happened. They glazed him a little bit and, they got a stay of execution. I think a lot of the denial is the result of people's fear of Trump. I mean, I don't understand that. I am fearful of Donald Trump's administration as well. And I'm never going to stop being critical of Donald Trump. I don't think Donald Trump is good all of a sudden. I'm more angry at the Democratic Party for making Trump look good in this process by giving him the easiest W of all time. Like I said, Trump doesn't have a superpower, okay? He just recognizes when something is popular and he goes, yeah, I don't care about like any number of different legislators. This is popular. They like me over there. They'll like me even more if I save it. I'm going to save it. That's it. I'm asking companies not to let TikTok stay dark. I will issue an executive order on Monday to extend the period of time before the law's prohibitions take effect so that we can make a deal to protect our national security. The order will also confirm that there will be no liability for any company that helped keep TikTok from going dark before my order. Americans deserve to see our exciting inauguration on Monday, as well as other events and conversations. I would like the United States to have 50% ownership in a position in a joint venture. They already have, I think the Chinese ownership at this point is like 20% from ByteDance. By doing this, we save TikTok, keep it in good hands, and allow it to stay up. Without U.S. approval, there is no TikTok. With our approval, it's worth hundreds of billions of dollars, maybe trillions. Therefore, my initial thought is a joint venture between the current owners and or new owners, whereby the U.S. gets a 50% ownership in a joint venture set up between the U.S. and whichever purchase we so choose. Donald Trump's Truth Social, 10 a.m. EST. It's so cool how right after the SCOTUS ruling, the Speaker of the House just says explicitly that the ban is intended exclusively as censorship and to strip the free rights of its 170 million American users. And that's precisely what this was about. I don't know how people don't see this. No, he's not saying nationalize TikTok. It doesn't matter what he says in terms of like what they want to do. I think that they're probably going to have a very similar structure that currently exists, but they're just going to aesthetically make it seem as though it's different. Like the ownership is different. That's the difference. Because TikTok says they're not going to sell. Why would they? I understand why they wouldn't. What, Trump called Biden out on this in April when the first bill passed? Yeah. Trump blames Biden for a potential TikTok ban and calls it election interference. In 2020, Trump signed an executive order to ban TikTok from app stores, warning the United States must take aggressive action against the owners of TikTok to protect our national security. Yeah, well, it doesn't. I know Trump proposed a ban on TikTok in 2020. He tried to do an executive order. It was unconstitutional. I know all of this. Why are you telling me this, chat? You think me, the political commentator who literally commentated on this as a professional political commentator in 2020 when it was happening, is oblivious to this reality? It does not matter. Saying Trump initially wanted it banned and he doesn't anymore doesn't change the equation even a little bit. TikTok CEO Shou Zi Chu is expected to attend tonight's Make America Great Again victory rally at Capital One Arena. Yeah, of course. Unless you personally think that like Donald Trump was able to do mind control over the Democratic Party so they would just like push for this stupid ass TikTok ban and sign it into law, thinking that this is like an expert level move from Donald Trump is so silly. It's super basic. It does not have to be that complicated. Politics can be as complicated as you want it to be or as simple as you want it to be. If people want something, and if an application, a treat that 170 million Americans use, okay, is the easiest W of all time. It's an incredibly easy W. It's an easier W than COVID lockdowns, because COVID lockdowns were appropriate. That was an instance where the government was actually operating in a paternalistic fashion at the behest of the citizens, okay? And even then, it was deeply unpopular because people couldn't go get haircuts. People were losing their minds, okay? People did not have access to their treats. Don't you understand? That causes societal collapse in America. That's the one thing. That is the American social contract. It does not matter how many brown people need to be a process. As long as I, an American, can get $5 jalapeno poppers, I, as an American, can get my easily accessible, affordable treats, then this entire project is fine, okay? That's the only thing that pacifies the public. That's the only thing people care about. Because when you don't have those treats, all of a sudden, you start recognizing that the potholes are up, the roads are busted, the infrastructure is dog, that schooling is worse year over year, your job opportunities suck, you can't pay rent and also afford groceries at the same time, simultaneously, you'll never be able to retire. The world is both simultaneously on fire or underwater, sometimes both at the same time. There's endless war. All of a sudden, you're like, everything sucks. And now I don't even have my treats? What the is this all about? That's it. That's the only thing that keeps American society together. So you don't have to be a brilliant person to recognize, like, yeah, if you take this thing away from Americans, they're going to get real pissed off. It's that simple. Also, not only is this just a treat, but there is no valid, unlike the COVID lockdowns, there is no valid reason to try and, restrict Americans' access to this social media application. Okay? That's the other problem here. Because if there was a valid reason, I would at least entertain the idea. If there was a valid reason, if they actually had a real, comprehensive, valid reason to do this, okay, then it makes a little bit more sense. but there is no real valid reason to do it. Oh, I'm sorry. Too much Israel criticism is not going to be enough for me. Oh, people are too excited about Luigi Mangione on there. We got to do something about it. Because that's like one of the real reasons, okay? That they just can't like put their thumb on the scale in terms of like what gets posted on there. And that's a big problem. Wear the MAGA hat, man. Shut up. No, I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, I mean, this is a timeless classic. The last decade has been the Democrats clinging onto the rule book, going, but a dog can't play basketball while a dog dunks on us over and over again. It's a classic for a reason, because it is exactly what keeps happening. The institutionalism defenders, the institution understanders, the rule abiders, the norms respecters, constantly getting destroyed by the Republican Party. And going, but what about the norms? But what about the rules? I don't understand. It's crazy to me that people also act like Israel played no role in this, like the pro-Israel lobby played no role in this, when virtually every politician has at least found it important enough to mention that that was a major reason. So what are they doing? Are they lying? Are they lying when they say they did this for Israel? I guess maybe they're just lying. Gallagher is well liked by Democrats and his GOP colleagues and respected as an expert on the issue. His efforts appeared to stall in 2023, but were revived in part by the fallout from the October 7 attack by Hamas on Israel, according to people close to TikTok and close to lawmakers. TikTok's users quickly inundated the platform with videos about the attack and Israel's war on Gaza. Some lawmakers say TikTok appeared to favor pro-Palestinian anti-Israel content and renew calls to ban the app in the U.S. TikTok spokeswoman said that the videos that lawmakers are concerned about were created by its users, and the company argued it has been fair in moderating pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian videos. October 7 really opened people's eyes to what's happening on TikTok and its differential treatment of different topics, said Krishnamurti, adding that the coming election also fueled concerns. People are concerned about interference using TikTok. Here's Mitt Romney also saying that.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here?
US Senator Mitt Romney suggested TikTok was manipulating public opinion by boosting pro-Palestinian posts.
If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so. I'd note that's of real interest, and the president will get the chance to make action in that regard.
But perhaps the platform is reflecting rather than shaping views. TikTok appeals to younger audiences and content creators who tend to be most sympathetic to the people of Gaza. And some even accuse the platform of being pro-Israel in removing content in support of Palestine.
Interesting. But there's more. Here's Chris Murphy, TikTok tucking itself in with Trump, Twitter under control of the White House, Facebook making major changes to placate MAGA, doing PR campaign aligned with Trump. Does everyone not see what's happening here and how terrifying this is, says Chris Murphy. To which Mike from Pennsylvania replies, Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut was similarly circumspect when pressed on Schumer's conclusion about anti-Semitism in the left. I think there's an awful lot of hateful speech on the left and the right, he said. But Murphy did offer one concrete idea to combat anti-Semitism, banning TikTok. Part of what I really worry about is the way social media sites drive the narrative, especially for young people. If you look at anti-Semitism festering on platforms and you go, we have to ban TikTok, you have to have a hole in your brain. It is ridiculous that you're posting on the anti-Semitic website, like the premier website. Twitter is the most anti-Semitic website. This is what makes me so angry about this process too, because there are valid concerns with social media in general, whether it be breaking the minds of Americans in and having a steady flow of misinformation run rampant, data privacy issues. All of these are real problems, okay? But you want to know something? Every platform does it. So solve it by legislating on those issues rather than using those issues to say, this is why we must ban TikTok. That is what is so frustrating about this, okay? It's just a lie. It's just, that's it. Part of what I really worry about is the way that social media sites drive the narrative. TikTok is talking about Gaza. The way that TikTok is talking about Gaza is designed to divide Americans from each other. While Murphy had previously been reluctant to embrace a ban, the events of the last 2 months have pushed him toward the view that it's probably time to say that we shouldn't have a Chinese-owned social media company force-feeding divisive information to our kids. Like, what are we doing? TikTok is such a dangerous tool for China, so we're now allowing it to be on every phone for another 90 days, probably longer too. It's super serious security issue, by the way. Please care about China. Please, please, please. Here is the ADL. Another very important responsible party for the TikTok ban in general. Okay?
You must. We must. You must take this deadly seriously. Pushing extremists off Wikipedia might not seem equal to...
By the way, they got this across. They got a bunch of the Wikipedia editors banned off of Wikipedia. The ADL actively worked to undermine Wikipedia's editorial integrity because they were upset that Wikipedia was straight up reporting the truth on the issue of Israel. And that's exactly what they did. They got them fired. They like, you know, took out a bunch of Wikipedia editors recently.
The challenge of pushing Hezbollah north of the Litani River. Capturing TikTok might seem less meaningful than holding on to Mount Hermon. Libelous tweets certainly might seem less deadly than missiles from Yemen.
Yeah, he's saying that this is a full-scale war and information is a major component of it, and we have to control these platforms. We have to enforce our will upon these platforms. Understand what he is saying here. It is so ridiculous, man.
But this is urgent because the next war will be decided based on how Israel and its allies perform online as much as offline.
So you'd say there is not a disproportionate amount of youth on TikTok or pro-Palestinian sentiment than other platforms? Wait, what? No, I'm not denying that. I'm saying that that is the reason why they want to ban it. Hello? Do you have an issue with that? Do you have an issue with that? Okay, that's what I thought. I was confused. No, there is definitely not a disproportionate amount. There's just like a proportionate amount that reflects reality, okay? What are we doing here at this point? Here's the original Greenblatt tweet from 2023. An intercepted communication, leaked audio of ADL Chief Executive Jonathan Greenblatt freaking out because global youth aren't buying Israel's propaganda anymore. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old.
True.
And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this.
Like they're actively and openly stating it. They're like, yeah, we want to ban it because people are seeing the truth about what Israel is doing, and that's completely unacceptable. And we can't have that. We can't have that.
Like we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, and the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Last thing I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked, who've long been problematic, like Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace, they flipped
like they're talking about young Jews, by the way. Like they're saying young Jews are too pro-Palestinian, and they're getting radical in the face of like Israel's genocide. It's completely unacceptable. Also, long track. Think about that. They've been tracking the statements of Students for Justice for Palestine. They've been monitoring Jewish Voice for Peace, like anti-Zionist activists. Interesting.
into Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups.
Like they literally have, they're like, we have spies. We have spies inside of these groups. We have spies inside of groups like Jewish Voice for Peace. We have spies inside of groups like Students for Justice for Palestine. Isn't that weird? This is supposed to be a civil rights organization, chat. A civil rights organization. It's supposed to be tasked with combating anti-Semitism. And they're over here spying on Jewish students for the crime of being anti-Zionist. Make no mistake. They've done this before. They were doing this alongside apartheid South Africa back in the day. In the 90s, they got busted for quite literally doing this surveillance and spying and smear campaign on anti-apartheid activists of Jewish background even back then. Labor activists, labor organizers, American Jews who were against the apartheid in South Africa, they, at the ADL, were working alongside the apartheid South African government and spying on them.
This again on October the 8th. It was that fast. Like the language in their toolkits was all about the Zionist entity and lots of other language that we recognized from Iranian propaganda.
What does South Africa have to do with Israel? Great question. Well, they were both very important, valuable allies during the Cold War. They're both fascists and they're both apartheid regimes. They relied on one another for developing nuclear capabilities. Not the current South African leadership, of course. I'm talking about apartheid South Africa. People calling that chatter a dumbass as if most people don't. Most people don't know about this, for the record. Yeah, so that's why I said, good question. Second paragraph, last sentence. It also worked with the NAACP to discredit the far-right Naspara operation. In the 1980s, it was involved in the propaganda against Nelson Mandela of South Africa before embracing him the following decade. Do you know why he mentioned Taglit? Taglit. He mentioned Taglit. He said the brilliant minds that came up with Taglit. Birthright. He's saying birthright is an incredibly valuable, an invaluable tool of propaganda for young American Jews. He's saying the brilliant minds that came up with the concept of birthright to do pro-Israeli propaganda should also be able to, deal with this TikTok issue. It's Tagli, is it? I don't know how to say it. Taglit. Sorry. I mispronounced it. What is this?
We need to talk about TikTok. TikTok, if you will. It is the 24/7 news channel of so many of our young people, and it's like Al Jazeera on steroids.
In November of 2023, a recording was leaked of Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, referring to TikTok as a problem that needed to be taken care of.
We have a major generational problem. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old.
I want to point to something here, okay? Make no mistake, there are other factors from other sectors that want a TikTok banned as well. Israel and the pro-Israeli lobby simply had enough institutional enforcement capabilities in terms of the legislative body to drag it across the finish line. Because if you think that other people, like, if you think that Facebook's Meta, Zuckerberg, Google, Elon Musk at Twitter, like, if you think that those guys didn't want TikTok banned, or at least like take ownership away from the Chinese government and like give it to someone else, but ultimately get it banned or, stop it. If you think that those guys that didn't have like an alternative interest in TikTok, you'd be wrong. It benefits them greatly, right? This is why I've also explained that TikTok being banned, technically, as a content creator who's not really on TikTok that much, it benefits me as well, because 170 million people are now going to look to another social media platform. So when I'm defending this on principle, I'm not defending it because of my own personal motivations here, okay? Someone texting you to add more context, the truth is more complicated. It's more complex than, oh, it's just because of Israel. If you say it's just because of Israel, then you'll be wrong. It's not. I think that this certainly played a major role. Why? Because pro-Israeli institutions and organizations like the Apartheid Defense League, the ADL, AIPAC, and many other groups like this have a lot of motion in Congress. Okay? They do. They have an outsized amount of influence. That's true. They fund a lot of campaigns. They can get into these rooms that the average American can't. You can see this. You can see this in a hilarious way with Sacha Baron Cohen's Who is America. Think about how many doors he was able to open just by presenting himself as a former Mossad agent, Eran Morad. Think about that. Think about how comfortable American congresspersons were with just talking to a random guy who simply presented himself as an Israeli Mossad guy. For them, they had no reason to think like, oh my God, this must be an op, because they were like, no, this happens all the time. So obviously, yeah, no, it's just another weird Israeli guy. That's it. Like, it's silly to think about because it was like presented as a comedy, but there is some very serious truth there. He was able to open virtually every door. He was able to interview Dick Cheney, dude, just because he was representing Israel in their minds in that moment, because they're so used to it.
And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Tagli, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast.
Now, one interesting side note here is that I came across an ADL report expressing frustration that they couldn't access TikTok's analytics the way they can with every other big tech company. Like, should they be able to do that? Anyway, now we're about a month into this war, and all these studies started coming out, making claims about the proliferation of anti-Semitism on TikTok. The most notable one from a statistician and tech executive named Anthony Goldblum. He tweeted out on November 30th that a study he commissioned concluded 30 minutes.
Bro, look at this. X being the lowest? Come on, dude. I'm on all three of these platforms. Who are you lying to? That's the other side of this that is so fraudulent, okay? Please understand how fraudulent this study is, okay? All you need to do is just click on Twitter and spend 3 seconds on the platform. Now, why are they saying Twitter is the least anti-Semitic out of all these platforms? Why are they saying that? Because it's owned by Elon Musk, who is, ironically, more overtly anti-Semitic than Mark Zuckerberg is, and certainly more overtly anti-Semitic than any other person that owns any other social media platform. But he went to Israel. He went to Israel and he was like, oh, dude, this is, you know, he did it. He was pro-Israel. If you're pro-Israel, you can be as anti-Semitic as you want. Okay? That's the real grift. Because these guys are way more invested in combating anti-Zionism instead of anti-Semitism. Now, make no mistake. Do I think personally that there are no anti-Semites who present themselves as anti-Zionists? Of course. I am the first to recognize that. And I talk about it all the time. The likes of Jake Shields or that one random doctor anti-vaxxer lady who will every now and then in between like Palestine posting will just then go and be like, look at all these rich Jews that are in power. Like that's just you're just using Palestine to be anti-Semitic. You're using the issue of Israel's apartheid and Israel's genocide to actually propagandize your opinion, which is that you want people to hate Jews. Okay? Candace Owens is another example of this. So just understand that while there are people who are prominently featured in mainstream outlets and on all these platforms that are overt anti-Semites, okay? Overt anti-Semites that present themselves as simply criticizing Israel, in terms of the way that most normal people analyze the situation, that is not the case. But yeah, this is a laughable argument, though, to say that Twitter is like 8 times or 10 times less anti-Semitic than TikTok is hilarious.
A day on TikTok makes someone 17% more anti-Semitic. Politicians like Nikki Haley would then go on to regurgitate this claim on national television.
We do need to ban TikTok once and for all. And let me tell you why.
Also that analysis also featured a wonderful little tidbit there. They snuck that in there, if you noticed. anti-Jewish and anti-Israeli sentiment. That's what they did in there. Anti-Israel sentiment is not anti-Jewish inherently, okay? It's ridiculous.
Every 30 minutes that someone watches TikTok, every day, they become 17%
I remember this was so funny.
more anti-Semitic.
Except that survey didn't say that at all, because A, it conflated anti-Israel and anti-Semitic sentiments, which I believe to be different. And B, Goldblum himself admitted that he made some logical leaps when he was drawing his conclusion. But now things are really moving at a rapid pace. The next day, on December 1st, 2023, the New York Post reported that a group of 40 mostly Jewish tech leaders and business executives confronted TikTok CEO Shou Chu over their concerns about anti-Semitism and the allegedly disproportionate popularity of pro-Palestine videos on the app. One of those executives, Anthony Goldblum, the same Anthony Goldblum who we were just talking about. And from everything I understand, the meeting didn't go well in the sense that TikTok didn't commit to a kind of wholesale removal of pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel content. So from then on, the fight against TikTok pivoted from a kind of PR battle that we were just looking at to now laying the groundwork to push legislation through that would ultimately ban the app. In March of 2024, a bill was introduced in Congress, HR 7521, called the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act, sponsored by Representative Mike Gallagher.
Foreign adversary control of what is becoming the dominant news platform for Americans under 30. This is a common sense measure to protect our national security. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bipartisan legislation.
The argument is one we've heard before. TikTok, owned by the Chinese company ByteDance, could pose a threat to US national security by harvesting user data, and its algorithm could also be weaponized to, quote, brainwash Americans. Now, these concerns I do think are valid in a sense, but I think it's worth noting that companies like Facebook and Google engage in similar data collection practices, and then...
Look at how... Oh, he replied to this tweet? We have had a lot of questions about why we labeled the chart anti-Semitic/anti-Israel and not just anti-Semitic. Different people, previously the CEO of Kaggle, what the hell is Kaggle? Different people have different views on which questions count as teasing out anti-Semitism. So we went with a more conservative chart title. For those interested, these are the raw questions that were asked in the survey. Jewish people can be trusted just as much as American people in business. Jewish people are just as loyal to America as other American people. I am just as open to having Jewish friends as I am to having friends from other sections of American society. Compared to other groups, Jewish people have too much power in the media. Jewish people talk about the Holocaust. Jewish people chase money more than other people do. I'm comfortable spending time with people who openly support Israel. Okay, one of these is not like the others. Israel has a right to exist as a homeland for the Jewish people. Israel is, okay. The first 6, I'm like, okay, that's like, you know, pretty good at assessing anti-Semitism. And then it immediately goes into the last 5, which are all like truthful statements that will be designed as calling you anti-Semitic. That's crazy. Israel has a right to exist as a homeland. Israel has a right to defend itself against those who want to destroy it. Israel and its supporters are a bad influence on our democracy. Israel can get away with anything because its supporters control the media. Okay, this one is like still anti-Semitic. And then Israel treats the Palestinians like the Nazis treated the Jews.
They would go on to sell this data to China. So China is getting the data anyway. But here's where things get really interesting. You start digging into Gallagher's largest campaign donors, and you uncover a story that goes far beyond data privacy or Chinese influence. Near the top of his donor list is AIPAC, the Israeli lobby. Here's a crazy statistic for you. Of the 500 plus members of Congress, only 33 members did not receive a donation from the Israeli lobby in the last campaign cycle. So essentially, when Israel wants something from America, they usually get it. Now, another contributor I want to draw your attention to, Palantir Technologies, which is a defense contractor co-founded by billionaire Peter Thiel. Palantir just happens to work very closely with the Israeli military, providing advanced surveillance and targeting software used extensively in their war on Gaza. And one of their consultants, a man named Jacob Hellberg, was responsible for writing the bill. Yeah, it's incredible. A defense contractor who profits off Israel's war were also the ones behind drafting a bill that would, in effect, stifle criticism of said war, which is a clear conflict of interest, no? At around the same time, the Jewish Federations of North America penned a letter to Congress urging lawmakers to ban TikTok due to anti-Semitism. Not one mention in their letter about China or data privacy.
TikTok runs all sorts of videos that portray the Israelis acting towards the Palestinians in barbaric ways. And when young people see these videos on TikTok, they obviously become remarkably sympathetic to the Palestinians, and they think badly, to put it mildly, of the Israelis. So the lobby would like to shut down TikTok.
On March 23, 2024, HR 7521 passed with largely bipartisan support. Looking back, I was fully expecting the bill to pass the House very, very quickly and easily, because there are a lot of bills that pass the House and don't make it through the Senate. The Senate is meant to slow things down. But 1 month later, on April 24th, the act passed in the Senate, again, with overwhelming bipartisan support, and was signed into law by Joe Biden on the following day. Like I said, I had never seen a bill go through Congress with that kind of speed and velocity, with very little opposition or debate. It's wild. And maybe even wilder, by that summer, Mike Gallagher, the representative who had sponsored the bill, was now working for Palantir as their head of defense. Ooh! He didn't even finish out his term. He just resigned from Congress and took a job there. I know, all of this sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory. In fact, the ADL did call this a conspiracy theory. The Atlantic also called this a conspiracy theory. They even name-checked me in their article. Quote, "The entire world knows exactly why the US is trying to ban TikTok," James Lee declared on March 16th. Not bad for your boy here, huh? And honestly, this would remain a conspiracy theory. I don't know if I would have made this video if they hadn't come out and confirmed their true motivations.
Typically, the Israelis are good at PR. What's happened here? Some wonder why there was such overwhelming support for us to.
That's why it's so funny when people will be like, "Oh, dude, oh, dude, it seems like we're broaching conspiracy theory territory here," and it's like, okay, but you're saying it. Like, why are you allowed to say it as long as everybody understands you're pro-Israel and it's a good thing? But like, when I repeat it, you're like, well, that's it. Some anti-Semitism happening here. It's not Jews, man. It's Israel, okay? The most important thing for people to consider here. Like, if fundamentally you think that like Israel is doing this at the behest of Judaism or Jews, you're wrong. Okay?
Shut down potentially TikTok or other entities of that nature. If you look at the postings on TikTok and the number of mentions of Palestinians relative to other social media sites, it's overwhelmingly so among TikTok broadcasts. So I'd note that's of real interest.
And that's where we are today. China or Israel? I'll let you be the judge.